Hi, my name is Carlo Volpe,
And I'm Desmond Silva,
and
and
welcome to
welcome to
Centreville
Centreville
Voice.
Voice.
Hey, everybody, welcome to Centreville Voice. My name is Carlo Volpe, and my good friend Desmond. How are you, Des?
Okay, about you, Carlo?
I'm good, thank you, Des. And it's been a while, so good to see you, Des. It's been probably three weeks or so, maybe even 4 weeks. But we want to do an episode, folks. Thanks for listening, thanks for watching, thanks for all subscribes and everything. We want to do an episode, basically post-election, right, Des?
Yeah.
It's been a few weeks since the election, and we've pulled up our socks, and I think we've wiped away our tears. But let's talk about it right off the bat. Let's go. Trudeau got a minority. What does that mean?
That means he's stuck at where he was before, essentially.
Okay, exactly. And just to recap, a minority government means that he still had enough seats to gain the position of prime minister, but he doesn't have enough seats to have a majority government, which
Yeah.
means in turn that he basically has an uphill battle. Governments that have a minority government traditionally have an uphill battle getting things passed. However, if they have cooperation, and sometimes it can actually make for a pretty good government at times.
Yes.
Now, I don't know if that's going to be the case this time, because what you alluded to is that it's basically the same thing. It's a do-over of the last 2 years, right?
Mhm.
And I've even heard kind of rumors that he's going to call another election this summer.
I've heard other rumors that he actually is going to call it quits.
Oh, that's great. Let's get into that.
That he's actually tired of it and he's actually going
Really?
to leave politics eventually.
Oh, well, I would love that. I mean, it actually would fit suit with kind of his style to just leave, right? Because I know that he likes flair, or he seems like he likes flair, and he likes drama. We all know he likes drama. But did his dad? I can't remember how his dad left office. Did he just quit, or was
Yeah,
it?
he
I don't.
just quit.
Just quit. Okay.
He finally just quit. He just left.
And
So
he was in there
if
16 years,
if
17
it's
years,
like father like son, then yeah, that's probably a good thing to do.
which is.
Leave gracefully.
Well, yeah, and that's definitely a kind of an ego move, right? You don't want to lose. You don't want to leave on a lost election. Although, however, I thought he was going to lose this time, but he won. But let's talk about that again. So, a minority government, basically the same. Did he have any more seats than last time, or basically the same?
I think they gained probably about one or two
Uh,
seats. That's pretty much it.
so,
The
for all intents and
conservatives,
purposes,
yeah,
same.
the conservatives still got the majority vote,
Yeah.
and the progressive conservative, the People's Party of Canada was the
Yes.
real surpriser because
Yeah. Let's talk about
they
that.
gained more popularity and actually got more votes than the Green Party.
Yeah, and the Green Party's been around for decades, right? Like I
Oh
remember them in
yeah,
the '90s. So, okay.
they've been around since the 80s.
In the '80s, really. So that's huge. So let's put a pin on that, I guess. Like, so the PPC got more votes than the Green Party, and the Conservatives still got majority of the votes. So all this talk that the PPC votes were gonna split the vote in some weird way, maybe it actually did split the vote. But I wonder when it come down to the actual seats, I wonder if it actually took away. But the fact that it still had more seats than the Green Party, and the Conservatives still had the majority of the votes. Like I don't know, what does that mean for PPC and Max? I think next election is big for Max.
I think that they can basically bring up a few more votes. But basically, they could probably eventually. And I'm not saying next election or the election
Yeah,
after
who
that,
knows?
but several elections down the line, there is
Mhm.
potential for them to even have some competition with the NDP, right?
Yeah, and I think that this is a great move for Canada as a whole, because even if you're a conservative and you like the CPC, right, Conservative Party of Canada, or you're a liberal, this is good competition. Now I know a lot of people don't like competition in politics, but it is better, right?
Mhm.
More competition is better, just like in the free market, more competition is better. So I think this is big. I think PPC is here to stay. Like you said, already beating the Green Party in votes, and the Green Party is not going away, which means that the Green Party has a lot of money for nothing. I don't know where they're getting their funded. I don't know
Well,
how. Like
they managed to, I don't know if they managed to keep, I forgot if they managed to have seats, but I think they did manage to keep a seat, right?
maybe one. Okay, yeah,
But
maybe one.
like the thing is, the problem with the PPC is that they ended up getting more votes, but those
Mhm.
votes were
Let's
kind of
see.
dispersed
And they were enough
around
for a seat,
for
right? Not even a
yeah,
seat.
so they couldn't land a seat,
Mhm.
right? But they got more votes. This is the
Yeah.
one major problem we have with our voting system, our democracy right now, is that it's not really being done by the majority vote.
Exactly. And it's done by areas that are densely populated, have more voting power, right?
Yeah.
And that's not actually, I think that really, I mean, I'm sure I'm not alone that in people thinking that it needs to be revamped, but our whole system does need to be revamped, because you're not just subject to the people in your neighborhood's policies anymore. You're subject to the countrywide policies, the province-wide policies, global policies now, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the fact that someone in, Etobicoke and someone in, BC, they have similar interests, right? So, or a small town in Nova Scotia or whatever. So I guess what I'm trying to get at is that we really should, are we ever going to get to a point where it's one vote, one vote, one person, one vote, like kind of like direct voting, I guess that's called, right?
Yep. I can definitely say this, called it.
Oh yeah, it's
last time I called it that it was going to be in the same scenario that we had before.
Yeah, it's crazy.
It's called sad. It and it happened.
Well, it's sad. Like I don't know. Let's talk about the PPC thing, right? Because the PPC, that there was, it made a lot of noise, but also the PPC, the traditional conservatives that went PPC caused a lot of noise as well. Do you think that cost the election?
I don't think it might have cost the election. But even though, like,
because there's no
O'Toole didn't even want to mention Maxine's name.
Yeah.
So he didn't want to, like, so Aaron didn't want to name Maxine Bernier at all. He basically called, he didn't want to mention the PPC at all. He just referred to it as that party.
Yeah, well, he probably felt threatened by it at some point, right?
Well, yeah, because, well, let's put it this way, right? The NDP is, relatively speaking, well, compared to all the other among the smaller parties, or not smaller parties, but amongst the party that rarely ever gets into power. So basically your two major parties, which are the Conservatives and the Liberals. Okay. Yeah. And if you don't, and outside of those two, you have all the other parties. And the NDP amongst those other parties is very strong. Right?
Yeah, the forerunner for sure.
Now, they're majority liberal. Now, liberal could be questionable because of the fact that a lot of people that are voting for them are minority groups, and not all minority groups are liberal, right? Mm-hmm. You can say that there are a lot of minority. So yeah, there are a lot of.
That's the weird thing.
Minority groups, but not all minority groups are liberal, so to speak.
Yeah,
because
that's the thing too. Like, just to mention that, like, something like immigrants, for example, right? Mm-hmm. Immigrants from all over the world coming here all the time, right? And a lot of immigrants are also conservative, but then they get warm hugged by the Liberal Party. And, and then next thing you know, they're probably voting Liberal. Like, why would they vote conservative?
Even though, like, by family values, the majority of them are actually conservative when it comes to their family values.
Yeah. And same as young people too. I think this is the dupe that they pull on young people, is that when you're young and you don't, for not everybody, a lot of young people appreciate hard work. A lot of young people appreciate the fact of all this. But when you're young and you don't appreciate hard work, or you're young and you're fortunate and you're a little bit entitled, then you're definitely going to, it's understandable to think that, why does anybody have to work if I don't have to, right? I get that now. Now that I'm in my 40s, now that I know what real hard work is like, right? I get it, how many people, when they're in their teens, in their 20s, they think that, well, I don't understand what's the big deal? Why is this guy starving and this guy rich, right? Why don't we just divvy up all the money? I get that simplistic,
it is very simplistic, or
very simplistic. It's like so simplistic that it would, those directions need to be drawn in crayon. You know what I mean? That's simplistic. It's like a 4-year-old, should understand it, but it's not that easy. It's really...
Oh yeah. I mean, there's a lot of like, for instance, even on environmental issues, right? The Liberals always focus on climate change. There are so many more various environmental issues other than just climate change.
And other issues that they can actually make change on.
Oh yeah.
That's a big thing.
Did you know that we are actually going to end up having something that's just as bad as the oil shortage or fossil fuel shortage, and not, or even the emissions of that, and that's a sand shortage. Really? Sand is slowly becoming scarce. Wow. Because we use it for everything. Glass, concrete, and a whole bunch of other processes that are being used in order to build cities
Wow.
or buildings,
They
and we're
start busting
running
up
out.
rocks. Yeah.
And for the sand is sand to replenish sand. It takes a long, long time.
Yeah.
I don't that one way that it's done is there is one particular fish called a parrotfish.
Okay.
These fish, they roam through through coral reefs, right?
Okay. Yeah.
And they'll go about eating all the dead coral,
Yes. I've
and
heard
they
about that.
found
Yeah.
sand.
Yeah.
That's one way out of many.
Yeah.
But imagine how much
Parrotfish.
parrotfish poop we'd have to have
Yeah.
in order to replace all the
N-
sand that we
Yeah.
use in construction.
No,
It's
that's a good point though. Like it's not just about, the water's rising, or it's not, there's many environmental issues like you're saying that we can actually change today. We can actually make big changes, like something like pollution, right? Or something like, some very obvious pollutions that we can get a hold of. I mean, I don't really know off the top of my head, but even the idea that I've heard over the last couple of years that recycling of plastic has actually been a big failure.
It has been.
Like,
Well,
and that's sad.
China has it down.
Okay, how are they doing it differently?
Well, the thing is that China recycles. I think. Well, first of all, China is a communist government. What the
Yeah,
government says you got to do. Plain and
yeah,
simple.
so they make big changes fast. Yeah.
So they make big changes very fast. And as I mentioned before, I have spoken with one lady who was from mainland China, who was pro-communist, and she talked about we were talking about the ups and downs of communist and democratic systems. And one big downfall of the democratic system is that things take forever, and especially in Western countries, they only think in terms of years, whereas in Eastern countries, whether it's democratic or not, they think in terms of generations.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, and I mean, if there's any reason, I'm sure one of the reasons is that it's generally a newer type of mentality over here, right? In the West, it's like even America, the new, United States, New York, it's a newer kind of country, right? But you're right. I mean, it's like things that we need to do that we can do. But let's get back to the whole election thing and Trudeau, and
yeah,
so he's back. And nothing else has really changed. O'Toole is the leader of the Conservatives. Singh is still the leader of the NDP, right? Miss, what's her name? Day? No, what's
Miss Paul?
Green Party? Miss Paul, that's right. She dropped out now, so she's no longer the leader. Okay, so there's an opening for you or I. Not the Green Party. You know what though? Years ago, I voted Green Party, and that's one of those things. Like, I completely understand why people jump around the spectrum, right? There's no answer. There's no answer.
There isn't. Like, I mean, the Conservatives are led by a liberal. The liberals have gone far left to something like almost
communist,
like totalitarian communist.
Yeah.
The NDP are like Robin Hood, and literally like Robin Hood. Take from the rich and give to the poor. That's their shtick, right?
Yeah.
And then the Green Party is just about they're basically the liberal party with an emphasis on the environment. That's essentially what it is.
So I think that in a couple elections, I think like what you said about Max is a good idea, is a good point. It's like maybe not next election, maybe they're not the one after, or maybe not even him, but it's his party. And if we'll see, I guess we'll see what the next 2 years are like. If they keep this momentum, then they definitely have a future.
Yeah.
So other than that, I mean, Trudeau's been pretty quiet, right, since the election. He went on vacation, of course, right after, because after you spend $60 million on an election, you have to go on a vacation.
Yes, of course.
So and I don't know. I mean, I personally, I'm waiting for all these more controversy to come out about him, more scandals to come out, because there's going to be more. And there's going to be things haven't even been finalized yet. Like there's still some more of these ethics issues kind of coming up. So
there are some. He has been cleared of a few, but not all of them, as far as I remember. And it's not like he's totally learned his lesson. I mean, after the scandals he had during his first term, his second term, he had the wee scandal, and you had other things that were there. It's just. And again, he was also going back and trying to put pressure on pro-life groups. I mean, it's kind of, You go around pushing down nuns. I mean, you get a problem. Man.
I don't know. He doesn't make sense. And then the whole like I don't know. Well, like everything else with COVID, right? The whole pro-life thing or pro-choice thing is like it's only when it's convenient for them is their choice matters, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't know. As far as the mandates, he hasn't really made anything worse, I don't think, but he's just doubling down. He's basically saying, okay, federal employees and all this stuff, trains if you want to fly and all this stuff. Honestly, between me and you, I don't know where it's going to stop, but it has to stop, right? Like it has to stop, right? And not only does it has to stop, I honestly think I don't want this to happen, but I honestly think that it's going to only stop from the people. The government won't change their mind.
No.
The people will stand up finally, and then there'll be nobody working or nobody doing anything. Firefighters are already standing up in Toronto, I heard. Police are next. Like,
oh dear.
If the police stand up,
happens in Toronto, Toronto is screwed.
Well, what should happen is that the government should be screwed. When that happens, that means the government's got their head up their ass. So,
well, they're gonna have riots on their hands if I don't know if it's gonna be like, well, potentially it could have like not Portland level, but
no, not that bad, but
have potential to get there. I'm not like it's more like small little bonfires here and there going on.
I hope that nothing happens, and just the idea of it is enough to make people in city council, the people at Queens Park, and then the guy in Ottawa. I hope they all change their mind very soon, because it's we're not violent people as Canadians, and I like that, right? I like the fact that we're a peaceful country. I like the fact that we have freedoms. Our freedoms aren't the same as the States, right? We didn't form our country the way the States formed their country. It's very different that way, right? But I do think that it's times like now, again, just to touch again, we need to lean on our American neighbors for that type of inspiration, right? That type of strength.
Actually, if you look at the history behind it, if it weren't for our first governor general, we wouldn't have the type of independence we have and self-governance we have today, because it was his idea. Because what happened is during the early days of Canadian Confederacy, there were people in Canada who wanted to join the USA.
Sure.
During the early days, because we were still under British rule. It was the governor general that basically said to give the first governor general who was basically assigned to take care of the country. He was the one who went and told the British Crown that maybe we should let Canada govern itself and develop its own identity on its own, so that eventually they will be grateful towards the British Crown for allowing them to gain their independence, and then therefore they will be having an identity as a
good subjects
own and reject the Americans.
So be good subjects. Yeah.
And they agreed, and what he said came true. To this day, if you look at a lot of Canadian history and all that stuff, there is this certain anti-American rhetoric.
Yeah, it seems like enough to keep it up. Yeah, enough to keep independently. You're right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Enough friendship, enough allies, but also enough different to stay different.
Yeah, he basically like two neighbors is like, no, you're not gonna annex my house. Here is the property line.
Exactly. Even if we don't have a wall, that's okay, but we just know where the line is. Yeah, and that's actually the good arrangement we've had with the US forever. Right? There's most of the Canadian-U.S. border is not guarded. Most of it is not walled. Most of it is forest, right? So, I like that. Maybe I don't know. Maybe we can end on that. It does. I think this, this election cycle or this election turn. Do you think it was an eye opener? I think it was an eye opener for a lot of people. I think a lot of people got discouraged, of course, but I think it was an eye opener for a lot of people to see what can happen when nothing happens. You know what I mean? Like.
And I think that what people can understand now, that there are a lot of people that are not far left.
Yeah.
If anything has shown is that there are a lot of people. I don't know if they would say let's put it this way: with the Conservatives getting the majority vote, that tells you a good thing about Canada's demographics. So when liberals go around espousing liberal values as
Yeah.
the only form of Canadian values, I would beg to differ.
Well,
Very
the truth is that there's over half of Canadians would disagree with those, right?
Yes.
Or at least double as much, right? Yeah. The other thing is that like that shows us that it's not. Sorry, I guess what I want to say on top of that is that even though the vote might look like it's 50% liberal, or essentially, right, half liberal, half conservative, the media still makes it look like it's liberal, and that's what we need to. That's what I need to ask more and more people around. Is like, how do they make sense of the media just being one message, even if it's your message? Like someone with some some real thoughtfulness should be able to put themselves in other person's shoes, and I don't see any of that in our media at all.
No, they're not.
No counterpoints.
No, it's always the media just wants to basically split everybody, right? Or just have everyone go to one side, and that's
it's
it.
just one message. Yeah, it's just one message. There's nothing going on. Just these aren't the joys you're looking for. It's really like that. It's just blindfolders, right? All right, buddy. I think this is good for an episode 22, right?
Yep, that's it. So
yeah.
well, that's pretty much it. Well, we'll just wait and see what happens in the coming future. Well, with Trudeau and the current government that's there, we can just hope for the best. That's pretty much it.
Exactly. And Des, we're going to keep on talking about religion again. We'll bounce back and forth, religion and politics. Guys, gals, anybody's watching, anybody's listening, let us know what you want to hear. Let us know what you want to kind of talk about. Let us know if you want to be on the show as well. We'd love to have people. Thanks, Des, for your time.
You too, Carlo.
Awesome.
See you guys in the next video. Peace.
Thanks, guys. Hi, and thanks for watching this episode of Centreville Voice. If you like what you see, don't forget to share, like, comment, and subscribe. And if you're watching this on YouTube, also click on the notifications icon to make sure you'll get notified on all of our new episodes every Friday. By sharing and liking this episode and all of our episodes, it really helps to promote the channel. And by sharing these episodes, it helps to promote our word and get the word out. If you like what you see and hear, please consider becoming one of our supporters on Patreon. 10% of all Patreon supporter donations we receive go directly to our charity of the year. This year, our charity of the year is the Terry Fox Foundation. You can visit us at centrevillevoice.com to learn more and engage with us on one of our social media platforms. Thanks for your support, and we'll see you again in the next episode. Peace.